If you're like most people watching this, then you're not a professional photographer, and that's okay. You don't need to be a professional photographer or actually have a professional photo shoot in order to take stunning product photos that will sell. In fact, today I'm going to show you exactly how to create stunning digital product photos that will make your customers fall in love with your work without doing a photo shoot at all. Yes, I'm talking about photos that are so good that people can't help but buy. As many of you will probably already know that have looked into this, one of the most popular digital products out there at the moment, especially on places like Etsy, is your digital planners and stickers, okay? But what's growing and ever growing for those of you who are more in who do like to dabble with your camera is art prints. Before we get into the nitty and gritty of exactly how to do this and the different softwares that we particularly like to use, we need to come up with a fundamental idea. So planning out your shots, and I do mean shots, is the first point of what's. Now traditionally I would say you need a minimum of 5, but certainly in perfect product photos we go down the nitty gritty of all 10 so that you can build in that bit of variety as you go and find your little sweet spot, okay? But the fundamental basics that I would recommend to absolutely anybody is your plain background studio shot. I would obviously expect a lifestyle shot, so it being used, packaging shot. And then you could incorporate some kind of scale or details, and then obviously the process in which you make them. But when it comes down to it, how do you do this with digital products? Do you seriously have to sit there and print them all out and sit there and use them and do a photo shoot? No, darling, you really don't, okay? If you want to make sure that you're doing this correctly, then you're gonna need to come back with me a little bit. One of the biggest things we see about this is people turn around and they start talking about mock-ups. Using the right tools and assets to achieve this kind of shot is really important. Now the problem I have with mock-ups, and there are plenty of mock-up sites out there for you to choose from, is the simple fact that they will only give you a still image in which you put your product in, and that's the way it is. Now the reason why I don't like this is you haven't really got a great deal of customization, you haven't got the ability to put your particular style into it, and it just doesn't work for me. Now that doesn't mean there aren't a place for this, okay, so just bear with me, but I want to take you on to the next level. The real way to do this, if you really want to achieve this, is actually to use what's called a scene creator. A scene creator allows you to use a mock-up style photo, but it's a simple cutout of it, and therefore you can choose your background, you can choose what accessories go into it, you can choose how you want to do these different things. And this is absolutely phenomenal when you're doing things like processes and you're doing things like hand shots, okay? Because you have a bank of hands and you pick the one that goes in for that shot, okay? Now, it's not as simple as just sitting there and plonking those things in, because you're going to need to understand some basic fundamentals first. Obviously, you're going to need the best tool for the job. If you're looking for a range of assets so that you can quite literally just drop things in, then you're going to have to stick with Photoshop. I know it's a pain, I know it's not always what everybody wants, but it has the most amount of assets out there. You'll be able to find just about anything you could possibly want to create a design, okay? If you're going to come down things and you're willing to kind of dabble a little bit, you could try something like GIMP or Photopea. Photopea is a really nice online alternative for Photoshop, but you're still going to need to understand pretty much how Photoshop works. Now, if that scares the crap out of you, and don't worry if it does, because we have plenty of people that way, Canva's new layer tool has allowed you to kind of dabble with these kinds of things a little bit more different, okay? So I'm going to go through more than one with you so that you can kind of see why Canva's great for some things, and why, if you want to go to the nth degree and have maximum amount of features and choices, you're going to have to learn Photoshop. Now, I have a in-depth tutorial on both of these. I have a training that's available, and if you want to know more about that, just hit the link in the description, okay? And it will literally go through the in-depths of exactly what you're going to need to know and how you're going to need to know it, okay? Because it's quite complex in choosing the difference between those softwares, and therefore how in depth you're going to go with needing to know those features. How do you create mock-ups for digital products? Okay, and I'm going to go back to the words mock-up. Okay, you're going to need to think about the scale of your object, you're going to need to think about the angles in which you start putting these things together, and you're going to need to think about lighting. Making sure that all of these are consistent and gives you the vibe that you're looking for will help you take it to the next level. So we're going to go through 3 examples. We're going to go through picking up your product in Canva, so we're going to do a planner and some stickers, okay, and I'm going to show you the different ways that you could do that in Canva. I'm also going to choose the alternative view. So if you're going to do like some art prints, Photoshop has a wealth of things out there, and I'm going to show you how I would do it in Photoshop. And then finally, I'm going to give you some pro tips to make sure that you don't make those fundamental mistakes. So make sure you don't go anywhere, because I have a surprise in here. Let's get to it. In Canva, realistically, you have a few different fundamental ways that you can do this. The easiest one I would recommend is find a background you like and stick the other bits into it as you go, because it just makes life a little bit easier. But make sure you choose something that suits your style, like what you would like. Okay, picking out a couple of different varieties is really simple. You simply find a photo that you particularly like. So you've got one like this particular one. This particular one was really simple because we simply picked out a background that particularly suited us. We've got a hand here and you've got your particular sticker. This could be repurposed every single time, so it looks like you've literally batched 8 stickers. Okay, if you want to do something more like a planner, then I'd obviously recommend a plainer background, as I'm thinking about that studio setup. Having the hands there gives it a little bit of more detail. You don't need to use your own, you do not need to take a shot. Some people find it easier to take the shot than actually find the hands. Others prefer it this way. And then obviously you can superimpose your digital image. Simple as that. And as you can see, they are very effective. You can add different aspects of personality. Alternatively, of course, you can try Photoshop. Photoshop is probably one of my favourite ways of doing things. Okay, so here is a simple example of a bottle. Bottles are really important, and like I said, here's your simple backdrop. You simply put your label on it and you'd be able to go from there. And obviously we can take away certain bottles, so if you only offer certain kinds, then we can obviously deal with those appropriately. Okay, and then once you go into this, you can then pretty much customize anything that you particularly want. So you can go literally customize things from the color of the foil, change it to whatever color meets your need. So what I will say is, yes, Photoshop is slightly, obviously you need to have the software, it's slightly more in depth, you need to understand how to use these things, but overall your customization and the ability to delve into those nitty-gritty little details is way more than what you'll ever do in Canva at the moment. But it's about the tool that you're confident with, and being able to pick that is really important. So, you know, yes, I can change this, and yes, I can and it says quite literally you can add your design here. But you know, it can also be down to things like packaging. I also talked about packaging as one of your particular things, and you can't bother to do all of these things. Guess what? You don't have to. And this is where it kind of gets really cool. So, okay, there are obviously ones that come in a very simple format that are pre-done for you for social media. So having a look at something like this can really help you take the general gist of what you need to do. Now, what I will say to you is being able to do things like drag your image into here is really important, because then obviously you can showcase your artwork, you can showcase a photo print, you can showcase pretty much anything you want, which is great. Alternatively, you could go to something more like, what I will say, especially when it comes to Photoshop, is they are very heavy on memory. So being able to put all of your assets onto an external hard drive is an absolute must, so it doesn't bog down your system. And obviously being patient with how long things that can potentially take to load these things, because they have an obscene amount of information in there. Okay, they hold all the assets and you just pick and choose which one you want, whereas in Canva you're picking things out of their database to add to it. So just be patient. It's not as simple as it always makes out, but just bear in mind, especially with Canva, your scales and your lightings aren't pre-done for you, whereas in Photoshop a lot of those options are already there. You just gotta pick it, which is why a lot of people still go back to Photoshop, because the customization, the features there and the done for you aspect, it's already done. And therefore, you know, checking out the different ones that are available and checking out my recommendations is probably a must, if I'm honest. So as you can see, it's as simple as that to kind of drop it out. And remember, if you want things like your reflections, make sure you've got those in, and make sure that you've got those little tweaks that you're looking for. So it can be as simple as that to kind of chop and change in. It does give you a more professional look, so I do recommend using PSD files over Canva, but I will have to say Canva's growing on me, especially for your very fundamental little things. So things like your stickers, things like t-shirts, things like that. You can really go a long way now with what they're available. I do actually have a little spreadsheet in Perfect Products recommending which tool would be the best depending on what kind of product you're doing and things like that, and whether you should just get down to the nitty-gritty and actually take a photo of it, because obviously if you're doing original jewelry, you're going to need to do your original photos. I'm really sorry, but you can literally take them on a plain white background and then start using them in a scene creator, but you are going to have to do that initial shot first. Okay, it all comes down to how creative you're being with your products and how well you can put them in a digital format. Okay, so talking about the digital ones, you should be fine using things like this, and it's a really thing that you can do in your PJs with a glass of wine with Gilmore Girls on. Okay, you don't have to be sat in the office doing these things. It can be done very chilled, relaxed, and all the rest of it. So my question to you is, which one do you prefer? Do you prefer the Photoshop or Canva? I'd really like to see you in the comments below your opinion. And found that a little bit overwhelming, and you literally want somebody to go through those step by step what buttons to press on those things. I do have a training out for you guys, which you can find the link in the description below, enabling you to literally follow me along and we can do it together. I'm even giving away some free assets in there to make sure that you guys have a good starting point and some special offers. So if you're interested in that, make sure you check out the description below, because there is a tutorial for both Canva, step by step, in depth, and for Photoshop. Okay, hopefully I'll see you in there. And again, if you've got any questions about how to do this, drop them in the comments below and I'll make another video about this. See you next time.